Appliance Advisers with Yale Appliance. My name is Francesco, joined as always by Dennis McDonald. We're excited to have today with us special guest Nick Schiffer from NS Builders, based out of Avon, Massachusetts. Welcome, Nick, to our show. How are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course. So we're really excited to talk to Nick today here, really about, Nick does a lot with high-end homes, custom homes, does a lot of different types of builds, works with a lot of different customers. And, Dennis, we always get so many questions about the building process and how do you find a builder and what questions do you ask? What is the process like? So we thought this would be a great time to bring Nick in and really talk to one of the sources here and someone who is so successful in that field and someone who really has put a lot of great information himself out there on really how to do some of these things. So we thought, who better to talk to today than Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. On the appliance side, we're always trying to tell people what to pay attention for, mistakes and things that go wrong, and just kind of keeping things real and how things actually go when it comes to the appliance side of the business. And certainly Nick's been a partner at Yale and builds great homes, but kind of the absolute unique part, and he's been doing it a lot longer than us, is, he's really been out there socially talking to consumers and educating people about the whole process of building. And really, I think we all kind of know that a lot of builders maybe are amazing tradespeople, but the business side and the communication between the customer and the builder, not necessarily the builder's fault, kind of fall down. And Nick kind of educates pre-project what to think about when doing a project, during the project, and then advocates for continual communication. So that's a big lead into Nick. But Nick, why don't you kind of just give us a little background into NS Builders, where you started, what you do today, and then we can get into kind of how you do things very uniquely, because I think you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So in terms of where this all started, since I was a child, I was a carpenter. I was always interested in carpentry, started dabbling with tools at a very young age. Fast forward to 11 years old, my father owns a fence company. I worked for him for 11 years. I ended up going to college for construction management because I knew in the back of my mind that, I wanted to build homes. Continued to work for my dad. I actually took a sabbatical from my father, worked for a big developer doing high-rise construction for 4 years. And then while I appreciated understanding the business and the management side, I was really missing the craft. At that point, that's when I started spending a lot more time doing side work and carpentry work and projects on the side, to a point where I had to make a decision if I was going to fulfill my quote-unquote dream of being my own boss. So I pulled the trigger and I started NS Builders as a carpentry company. And it was a small company, almost 10 years ago now. And it was just myself, and I had a helper here and there. To fast forward, and we're a team of 15, and you went from a carpentry company to a home building company. And the company has evolved and grown into more of a commercially ran residential firm. So we have project managers, site supers, operations managers. We have a team of carpenters on staff. Last year, or a little over about a year and a half ago, I guess at this point, we had a cabinetry team within NS Builders that we actually separated, and that is now Monteria Millwork. So they're a sister company of ours that does all custom millwork and furniture and cabinetry, not just for us, but other builders and direct-to-consumer and things like that. And that's a team of 5 on that side. So there's been a lot of hires over the years. But Dennis, something you said that I know, we talked off air about this, but communication is something that is, wildly underrated in this industry. And a lot of people get it wrong, or a lot of people think that it's secondary to what they're doing. I think that a lot of it has to do with maybe the trade mentality of being a good craftsperson, but not a good businessman. But communication has been a real big focus for us.
Yeah, so let's keep going there, because I totally agree. And when we fall down as a company, honestly, it's not that the intent wasn't there, we didn't want to do good work. It's that a lot of times we didn't either convey an expectation that we had for a customer to be ready for us, or a builder, or vice versa. Maybe it got lost in translation on an expectation. So, if there's customers out there, homeowners today, thinking about projects in the middle of projects, and certainly what's had made you be successful, what does that look like? What do you think a customer should expect from a construction company in terms of communication to keep that whole project kind of in sync?
See, this is the only issue I have with that question is that it's not really easy to just answer that in a direct way.
Okay.
Because I can attribute this to a vehicle where it's like, hey, when what should I expect when I buy a car? Well, it's like, what kind of car are you buying? Are you buying a Honda, or are you buying, a Ferrari or a Mercedes?
Sure.
Because that's a very different experience in buying both. You're also getting a very different end product. And I think that buying a home or building a home, in our case, we're kind of lumped together, where it's like, most of the time it's like, well, what should I expect to pay per square foot? And it's like, well, I mean, that's a loaded question.
Sure.
It's like, well, my friend, my friend built a house and it cost them, $400 per square foot. It's like, sure, but we can talk about $400 a square foot. We can talk about $4,000 a square foot. It's what product are we talking about here, and what are we trying to accomplish? And truthfully, that's where a lot of, I think, consumers are starting, where it's like, hey, how much is this going to cost me? And we understand that that's where the conversation starts. So we try to be really upfront about, the estimated cost of what our projects cost on average. And we'll try to understand if, do they have realistic expectations to work with someone like us? And when I say someone like us, it is something that we have a lot of management. There's a lot of people involved in your project. Our communication is extremely thorough. When I talk about being more commercially based, we have a full-time site superintendent on the job from day one to day zero. They are only overseeing that one job because they are held at a very high standard to make sure that we're executing at a very high level. We also have a project manager in addition to the site super. And that project manager is in charge of document control, communication with the client and architect, making sure that the financials are updated on a daily basis, making sure that, all the information that is, attributed to that project is, uploaded into Procore, our project management platform, and from there we might have an assistant PM, or we might have an assistant super, but then there's, of course, myself and an operations manager. There's a lot of people that are involved, and we've kind of deemed it this whole white glove approach. So if you're going to build with us, we're going to be extremely thorough in the way we communicate with you. We're going to be communicating on a daily basis. I can give you our playbook as far as communication. It's, you're getting a daily report every single day, 6 p.m., goes out to the entire team, how many people were on site, who they were, what trades they were, what work they accomplished, and a dozen photos of that day. And it's done in the platform, and the client can log in and see exactly what's going on. I can log in. I'm not on the job site every day, and I can see what's going on. And, beyond that, we're holding regular, what we call OAC meetings, owner, architect, contractor meetings. That might be weekly, that might be bi-weekly. We're doing, we actually do this informal check-in at the end of the week, where the site super, right before he takes off for the week, he walks around the job and does a quick 2-minute video of just everything that's going on. And then beyond that, we're updating the budget on a daily basis, so the financials are always up to date. We're keeping the project schedule up to date. We're communicating these things when changes arise. We're communicating them extremely quickly to make sure that everyone is on the same page. But all of this is designed to eliminate the question as to what is going on the job site. What happened today? It doesn't look like any work got done. Do you have enough people on site? Let's eliminate that and make the process more enjoyable. With all that being said, it's still important for us to understand from the client's perspective how they want to be communicated with. I had a client a couple of years ago we did a renovation for, and we filmed a testimonial video, and I had asked them in the video, I was like, what's one thing that we, did wrong? And they looked at me and they're like, do you want us to say this on camera? And I laughed and I said, well, it doesn't mean I'm going to use it, but I do want to know. And they said, well, honestly, I found the communication style to be pretty cold.
Really?
I was like, interesting. Can you explain? This was before we were so redundant with communication. This was when we were developing it. And they had said, they were like, the daily logs are great. Like, I love being able to log in and see it, but I kind of want to just see you guys and chat maybe on a regular basis. And we weren't holding these weekly OAC meetings. To now, we were like, it's not one or the other. It's really everything. So, let the client be the determining factor as to, hey, we're meeting too much, or hey, I don't need to be in this meeting, or or frankly, it's not like we're pinging them with an email or with these daily logs. They have the autonomy to log in and read if they want, or not read if they don't want.
Sure.
So we've created this funnel of information that everything is always up to date. They're getting all of the information. It's very white glove. Every decision they're in control of. There are people to make sure that we're executing at the level there. Oftentimes we talk about compromise and accommodation, where it's, I think about construction and my time in commercial construction is a great example. It's where, you move so quickly and construction is happening so quickly. And even in residential, the homeowner's not out there every day, and it might be 2 weeks until they come out, and they show up 2 weeks later and they realize that I don't know, maybe a window that they asked for it to be moved, right, to a different location didn't get moved. It didn't get communicated. In that moment, they might look around and feel overwhelmed in the way that it's like, you know what, forget it. It's not a big deal. And what they're doing is they're compromising. And we try to eliminate that, where it's, we want to make sure that the information is being funneled correctly, making sure the information is getting to the entire team correctly, because the client ultimately is paying us, a lot of money to build a beautiful home, and we don't want to have them make a compromise because we didn't communicate effectively. Now, something you said a minute ago, Dennis, like when you think about appliances and when you guys are on site and when, you show up and the client's frustrated because you didn't tell me that I needed to be home, or whatever the case is, it's, there's the, Jocko says it, the extreme ownership side, which I'm a firm believer in. It's like, well, in that moment, it's really easy to get frustrated or say, no, I did tell you that.
Correct.
Instead, it's like, wait a second. Did I not tell that? Like, what did I do wrong here? Did I email them and they don't check their email? Did I follow up with a phone call but left a voicemail and didn't make sure that they got that voicemail? Or maybe it could be, I'm sure plenty of people are listening right now like, no, I've done all that. I called them, I texted them, I went to their house, I knocked on the door, talked to them face to face, and they were still aggravated.
Right.
And it's like, well, at the end of the day, some people are just going to be mad just to be mad. But, what could you have done differently in that case? If you go into it knowing that they're going to be mad, and I don't know, you see that they love Diet Coke because there's Diet Coke cans in the trash can, and you bring a 12-pack of Diet Coke when you drop off that refrigerator, stick in there. Yeah. It's like, are they like, maybe you break them, and maybe they want to be mad at you, but they're like, I just ran out of Diet Coke.
Right. No, I think I think that's great perspective. I'll tell you, and you've obviously, from the sounds of it, certainly with your father's start and then kind of taking this in a new direction, as really the way most customers, to your point, everyone wants to be communicated differently, but most customers want you to be there when they want you to be there, in the media and the way they want you to be there. So like for us, for the longest time, it was like, hey, this is what we do, and they got to conform to what it is. And we are better than we were, but every day learning, because to your point, I don't think I learned this until I turned 40, because in my 30s I was really fiery and I felt like we knew better and just in everything. And now in your 40s, you're like, no, we make mistakes every day. We own the ones we do, and what can we learn from it? And what we have learned is our biggest fall down internally as a company, externally, where we can continue to get better, is just communication. And it's constant refinement, and it's really every day being okay to say, yeah, that's what we do, but this is the comment we got, and we should beat it up again to make sure we couldn't improve it. And I think that's kind of the fun part. And I think the people that do will continue to be humble and grow and evolve through good times and bad. And that's really what drove me to it. I mean, so many times I hear two things. I hear, oh, we have site supers on a job, but you said one the same one every day. And I know a lot of companies that start with one person, maybe because their strengths are a few things, and then they leave halfway through the job and someone else comes on board, and we get stuck in the middle of that a lot of times. And I think everyone does. It's really great to hear you keep people on kind of full-time, a point person for that customer, because to your point, when they do come by and want to see if that window's moved, they want to also be able to talk to somebody live and hear about it.
And the same person, the person that was in the meeting. I don't think I finished my thought there about from the client's expectations too, where if you're thinking about building and you're like interviewing builders, there's our approach, and our approach isn't for everyone. I had someone approach us, and we priced the project, and they were like, "Why are you like your price per square foot is twice as what this guy is?" And I was like, "Who's this guy?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Well, it's it's this contractor." I'm like, "That he does a great job. He's a one-man show."
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying I'm going to build a better house or a different house. What I'm saying is the experience is going to be different. A one-man show. Like there's only so much one human being can accomplish in a day.
Yeah.
Some guys are more efficient, some guys can work faster and harder, like no doubt. But at the end of the day, he cannot be also doing all of the management, all of the document control, all of the communicating, and running a job. It's not possible. And and again, that might be okay for that client. We are looking for clients that are extremely discerning, that want an extremely high level of quality, a very high level of craftsmanship, and to be communicated with all the way throughout the project. So when they come on site and they adjust the doorstop on the floor a quarter of an inch, someone says, "No problem, we'll move it a quarter of an inch." And it's like, as ridiculous as that might sound, that's the client that, I'm not saying I'm looking for clients that are making me move things quarters of an inch.
Sure.
But that client, oftentimes the people that we're working for care at that level of detail. And those are the people that we want to continue to push ourselves against, because they're the most demanding, and they're going to want the very highest level of, communication and quality. So there's all of these tiers of the guys that, can be a one-man show and do a really kick-ass job, but he's going to run that job and he's going to move quick, and he's got to have the information. And if he doesn't have the information, he's either losing money, which isn't fair to him, or he's going to make a decision and you're going to have to, accommodate what his decision was, because in the moment, that's what he decided to do.
Correct. Yeah.
And, or you get to the other side of it where it's, hey, if we're moving, and we run into something, we got a team that can go ask that question while we divert and keep moving something else forward.
Yeah, I think it's no shock why you're successful. I mean, you said something, but just in passing, I think you said the word change order or a change. We hear that a lot in construction, and many times that's what we hear about is, oh, well, I changed one thing. I added a step down in a room, or I did this and that. And, of course, the person said, oh, no big deal, I can do it. And they were able to do it, but then they get the bill a month later, 2 months later, and then these fights start happening. So in real time, kind of be able to say, hey, anything's possible. To your point, we can move that a quarter of an inch. We can do this, that, and the other thing. And, here's open book, kind of how it works is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think the speed of communication is really important, especially when it comes to changes and anything financially or schedule related, where it's, someone might say, hey, yeah, I want to sink my living room. And we're framing the first day, right? It's like, yeah, we can do that. We'll probably lose a week's worth of work, and it's probably another week's, or it's probably another week's worth of labor and material. I got to get some structural hangers. I got to put another footing in the basement. Blah blah blah. I don't know. Maybe you're talking another $15,000, and they might say, oh, I didn't realize it was going to cost me any more money. Forget it.
Right.
Instead of no problem. We'll take care of it. You go do it. You add up your bills. Here's a bill for $14,300. It's like, what's this for? It's like to sink my living room. It's like the house stayed the same size. You just moved the drawers down a couple inches.
Are you talking to me right there? That's me. I'd be like, oh, it's no big deal. I say it all the time right here. I'm like, no big deal. Let's just take that. Yeah. And they're like, no, it's kind of.
Dennis, on a computer, it's no big deal. You just move, pick up the arrow and you push it down.
Yeah, exactly.
But and even if you don't get to the 15,000, you could say, hey, we can do that. It's probably an extra week's worth of work, and I don't know, a couple $1,000s worth of material. You've now communicated like no cost. You're just telling like it's a week's worth of time. So any relatively intelligent person's going to know more time equals more money, and they're going to like, oh, so this is going to cost more money. It is. Okay, well, they can likely communicate what their threshold for green light, red light would be. Meaning like, well, if you're telling me it's going to be like $5,000, I'd be cool with that. But if it's going to be over that, I'd probably just say leave it. And you might be able to say, oh, it's definitely going to be more than $5,000. Then all right, you know what? Forget it. Keep moving with what the plan was.
Sure.
And that's what we talk about, the speed. And I think this is where I think a lot of people in this industry sometimes trip, where they're afraid to communicate that in a way that is inaccurate, where it's like they don't want to tell them it's going to be more money because they're not sure it's going to be more money, or they don't want to tell them it's going to be more than $5,000 because what if it's like what if it's $25,000, or what if it's $4,990? Like, and the point is you're not trying to get them a cost in that moment. You're trying to understand if they're the investment of spending more money for what they're asking for is worth it to them. And if they say, I don't care what it costs, like it is what it is, this is what I want, well, now we know. But if there's any inclination that, if this is going to be a costly thing, that they won't do it, well, you can save yourself and them a lot of time by just explaining like, yeah, this is going to be a fairly expensive change.
Yeah, you're speaking to me there. I feel like in COVID, I would imagine it's true for any business. You might have thought you had a lot of things buttoned up, but you found every hole in the dam. I mean, really, you found out where you were broken, where you were improving, and a lot of headwinds. And for us, I don't think none of us have witnessed a pandemic like that in our lifetime. And I think certainly what we started to feel was, at first it was, well, how long will this last? And then to your point, we started to constantly talk about, we need to tell customers in a nice way. Unfortunately, what they need to hear, not always what they want to hear. And many times we don't want to deliver bad news and say, wow, your fridge is going to be back ordered another 9 months. But and we're better today for it. We still have a long way to go, but that trying to improve our communication with the customer so that at the very least they knew, hey, Yale was on this. We were on it. The manufacturer didn't deliver the unit. But when they see this, a lot of communication, they at least know you're engaged. And I find that most homeowners are really okay with bad news. They just need to know it in real time and the transparent truth of where they're at, because they can make decisions around that. They'll make exceptions, or they'll be okay with, wow, it's going to be painful, but we want to wait for that. It means that much to us to wait for that door or that window or that refrigerator. It's just really what we want. Did you find that in COVID? Like, issues you had, do you feel like you're better on the back, coming off the backside of it?
Yeah, I think that I think a lot of people are afraid to be the bearer of bad news, and I say bad news, and sometimes it's not even bad news. It's just it could be interpreted that way.
Sure.
I think of budgets. Budget is a great example. Where it's like, hey, we're going to be, this home, it's going to cost you $1 million to build. It's like, well, my budget's 800. It's like, all right, we can figure it. We can figure it out for 800. And then you sign a contract for 800, and you get them hooked, and you start helping design, and you put a budget together, and you make it 800, and then they add this and they add that, and they pick out the sub zeros, and the next thing you know, they're back at $1 million, and you tell them, and they're like, well, what do you mean I'm at $1 million? It's like, you told me you could build this at 800, and I'm putting a foundation in the ground today, and now we're the bad guy because we basically committed to a cost that a lot of times we know we can't build for. And I'm saying we as like the industry as a whole. I see a lot of people do it where it's they get them hooked. That you hook the sale, knowing that whatever cost you're going to tell them, might not be realistic. It's because you want to make that sale. And I think COVID was an example of that, where, you told them to buy that particular appliance, or you told them to, yeah, we'll get this done. Don't worry about lumber prices. We'll order all the material right away. We have a great relationship with our vendor. You start the job, boom. It's, 30% increase.
Yes.
It's like, what happened? It's like, well, that's out of my control, really. It's like, well, you said, I'm like, yeah, we tried.
Yeah.
We did our best. Where it's like, we did we? Like, our best would have been being very upfront about it in the very beginning. And I think that, it's the, our industry from my side, it's like, these are long projects. These are big projects. We work months and months and months to get a sale. Our funnel is extremely long. For you guys, that you guys sell expensive products, but your funnel is much shorter.
Correct.
Where it's like, they're entering that funnel when they're building a house.
Correct.
And, it's for us, they're entering our funnel when, they get their first job.
Correct. Right.
And eventually want to build a house, or they're thinking of like it's such a long process. And the point I bring that up is when we're at the point of like, okay, we're so close. What do we need to do to make this work? Because we want to move forward. We make these rash decisions that aren't always the best for our client and or us. And I think that, early in my career, I know I made a lot of those decisions. And I've talked about that on our podcast and in some of our videos. And, but the reality is like we look now, we have to be very upfront with our process. We have to communicate the true cost of what these things cost. And, the most difficult part of that is the constant comparison. It's like, well, this guy over here told me he could build it in, I have a great example. We looked at a project. It was a renovation project, and we had priced the project. This was years ago, and the client, we thought we had the job. Like, we didn't think there was any question, and they ended up reaching out to us and saying that they went with another builder. And I said, oh, what was the, why?
Yeah.
And they were like, actually, you guys had the same price, but they just said they could get it done in 2 months. Shorter time. And I was like, it's so interesting that us as humans would prefer to be lied to in the beginning and deal with it on the back end than me tell you exactly how long it's going to take and know the truth up front. Like that, it's just what we do. It's like, no, I want to be told what I want to hear, which is what you said earlier. It's like, tell me what I want to hear. I want it to be done in 6 months. You're telling me 6 months. And then when it's 7, 8, 9, it's like, yeah, I'm frustrated, but it is what it is. We're so close. Instead, I was like, hey, it's going to take 9. And they're like, no, I really need it to get done in 6.
Yeah, it's a very familiar story. It's funny because it's like, we're talking about appliances, what we're selling, but it's very, very similar when we tell someone, yeah, that fridge is going to be 12 months, but someone else might be telling them 8 months. It's like, well,
Yep.
And you're very careful to not want to call someone a lie or anything like that. It's like, well,
Right.
no, I can definitely tell you from our experience, and we're trying to set the right expectation for you. We're trying to tell you like this, like you said, what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. But it's unfortunate that, a lot of times people prefer it the other way around, just like you said. And, setting the right expectations is just so critical in our industry, in your industry. And for you, I'm sure it's, someone coming in to build a home. It's got for many of those people, I'm sure many people have done this multiple times, but many of your customers, I'm sure it's the first time they've ever done it. And it's like, you really have no idea what you're walking into.
Mm-hmm.
What do you find kind of like surprises those potential homeowners? What surprises them the most, or what are they not prepared for? Like, what is the biggest thing that you can tell someone walking into there that has never done this before? Like, what can they expect that's maybe something that they're not thinking about?
I feel like I have a list.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I'm going to be careful because I don't want to scare people from building.
Mm-hmm.
I think that time is often, is one of those things that people underestimate. And your example of like, hey, this fridge is going to take 12 months and someone else told them 8, the difficult part of that is you guys could probably say 8 as well.
Yeah.
And it might get there in 8, but you're telling them 12. So when it shows up in 8, you look like a superhero.
Correct.
Like that's just like, and that's something like that's what we should do. We should be, like we should be pushing it out further. Give us a buffer zone, give us some fluff on it. That way, when it shows up early, we're like, hey, great news. It showed up 4 months early. The other guy is giving him no fluff, where it's like, hey, 8 months. It might show up in 8 months, but if it's 8 months in a day, they're like, what the hell? You told me it was 8 months.
Absolutely.
That was yesterday. It's like, well, yesterday was Sunday. I don't care. You said 8 months. So
Sure.
when you think about building, or when someone thinks about building, I think that, the things that surprise them, when you're building a custom home, it's different than buying a home, hands down. Mm-hmm. You're going to spend more money. You are going to spend more time. And if you don't have a good team, meaning builder and design team, architect, interior designer, whoever you might have involved, if there's not good synergy in that team, it is going to be enormously stressful. And to the point where when you finish the job, the best part of finishing that job will be the fact that you are no longer building the house. You are no longer in construction. And that sucks. Like we have no interest in doing it that way. We want to finish the home and then be sad that we're leaving. And then invite us over for a barbecue. And then hire us for, we have a home care program, and then hire our home care team so they're maintaining the home. That way the van pulls in the driveway every 21 days and does a little maintenance on the home, and we're always there. We're always a phone call away, right? Where it's, when you don't put together the right team and there's not the right synergy, all of that, everything that's not glued together becomes the homeowner's responsibility. And then there's this, issue with the builder's responsibility versus the architect's responsibility. It's like, well, listen, like you haven't given me your paint colors. I didn't know you needed paint colors. It's like, well, my painter said, he's here tomorrow, and if you don't get me paint colors tonight, he's adding 11%. It's like, then you're making these, compromising decisions. It's like, paint the whole house white, Which white? I got 73 white. It's like, I don't know, pick one.
Yeah, they wanted satin finish, and they use flat everywhere, and there's finger marks everywhere. Yeah.
And I think that you have to, when you're building custom, you really need to consider all of the players involved. You guys are, for us, we're going to be involved for 2+ years, in pre-construction, in construction. And then hopefully we're maintaining the home beyond that. Mm-hmm. It's a long time to be around someone that you're not comfortable with. And when I say comfortable, it's their personality, their process, the things that they care about in building. How do you what things do they care about? Are they aligned with you? Are you really up on sustainability, but your builder could care less? Mm-hmm. He's more of just like, hey, I'm a speed kind of guy. I'll get this home built in under a year for you. It's like, all right, but like, what about sustainability? It's like, no, I don't believe in that stuff. It's like, well, that's important to me, and these are all the questions and really like, and it's a two-sided interview too, where we have clients, we interviewed for a big job, really beautiful home. Design was amazing. Budget seemed really low when we were looking at it originally. We priced it anyway, and we sat down with them. And I remember the client looking at me and saying, hey, Nick, if you built this house, it would be a masterpiece. It would be art. It would be amazing. And he looked at me and he said, but I don't value that. I value how fast I can get this done for as little amount of money as I can do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I didn't spend that time like pricing it. I wish I knew this ahead of time, but at least you're honest.
Yeah.
At least the fact that you understand the value that we can bring to the table, but for you, you find value in something else. So this is a great opportunity. We don't work together, and that's totally fine.
And you're trying to find, like you said, you're not in it just for, building the house quickly and turning and running away the other way. You want to build those long lasting relationships. So it is so important for not only for the consumer to find the right builder to work with, but like you said, for you to find the right homeowners that you want to work with, because you want to build that long term relationship and something that you value and they value. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, our owner is big on, continuing education, and he sent us to a really great school, and we spent a lot of money on this class. And I think, while it's so basic, the one thing came where he goes, "What do you learn?" I said, we really, and this was years ago, we really need to determine who our customer is and isn't. And I would say that doesn't mean we're going to be overpriced. It doesn't mean any of that, because unlike you're craftsmen. We sell a commodity good that, frankly, you can buy really anywhere, right? But it would probably be people that would value and understand, hey, these things break, and when they break, I want to call the person that I bought it from. I don't want to be transferred to a 1-800 number. My time means something. Can they install it? Will they bring, good service guys to protect the floors and those? And sometimes those are, to your point, you have people that just say, hey, listen, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care if you drop it off in my driveway. I just want the cheapest human, price. Unfortunately, like you said, many times people do spend good money after bad building when they go for those, because, we kind of all know it. Like, wow, yeah, you bought it from an internet player that ships it 3,000 miles across the country. It's a 800-pound fridge, and it just landed in your driveway now, and you and your buddies are going to try to bring it in the house, or you and a moving guy that has no business moving it. But same with building. Sometimes I would imagine, and just on the projects I've done, you look at the prices, and I always say to people, if someone's that far off, certainly with what we sell, which are commodity goods, and that much cheaper, then maybe just dig a little deeper. If you've dug that far to get the cheap price, maybe dig a little deeper on the whole story, the reputation, and how they do work. And I think the same is true with this, because a lot of times, and that's why I think it's really smart, and it really was a question on like the communication piece, and we talked to that, and it just stuck out. That is what has always stuck out with me about what you do, because we're not nearly as good as you are even at communicating a lot of times, it sounds, with consumers, that we can learn from it. And you've been doing this for 4 years. I mean, podcasts are popular now. That's why Fran and I have jumped on. We're trying to become, it's like maybe our 20th show. But you've done how many shows, how many podcasts, forget videos, because I actually watched a lot of your videos. And if people haven't watched them, I mean, you are in front of your home, showing materials, showing them how you built it, why you'd picked this product, how you did. You talked about sustainability, how you protected the envelope of the home, and how this. And honestly, I had aha moments watching it. Seriously, appreciating. Because to me, it's just like, oh, the pretty molding went up. They just put the skirt on the house, or But you see everything all the envelope, everything that goes into it, and how you did it really was a different appreciation. But the podcasting communication part is unique for a builder, and you've been doing it a long time with a lot of shows. Like, what made you say, this is what I want to do? Because running your own business and doing everything else you do to build a house is enough work in and of itself. What had you say, I'm going to create extra time that I probably don't have to do all of that?
Yeah, would you believe me if I told you I have 4 kids?
No way. One, you don't look old enough. But wow.
I just had my 4th kid, and I was talking to someone the other day, and we were talking about the podcast. They were like, "What is wrong with you?"
That's what I was asking. I'm not your friend, so I don't want to come right out with it. Not that I don't like you, Nick, but I wouldn't be so brash to say, "What? You're crazy, man."
I mean, there's a lot of things when it comes to the fuel that goes into podcasting and video. Selfishly, it does a lot for me.
Yeah.
We've done, I'm not sure, 250 episodes of Modern Craftsman podcast, something like that. And we had another show that probably did about another 50 shows. But, selfishly, I wanted to talk to the best of the best around the country and talk to other builders and learn from them. But selflessly, I was like, why not record it and share it with the world and have everyone become better?
Yeah.
Rising tides raise all ships, right?
Yeah.
Beat collaboration over competition. So that was really the premise behind the podcast, is that we realized that, listen, we're not alone. There's a lot. This is can be a very lonely industry. There's a lot of flash going on, especially with social media these days, where it's like everyone looks like they're a millionaire. And it's like, and then here this guy is that's got a pickup truck that, is paying payments on a, an old pickup truck, just trying to get by and support his family. And, and he's looking online and it looks like every other builder is making $1 million bucks a year.
Yeah.
So we started having these really honest conversations about that. And our podcast has evolved. It's not so technical about building. It's more just like, what the industry is and mental health and, just it's really just a regular conversation.
Right.
Whatever. So what fueled that is the outreach that we would get every time we did an episode.
Yeah.
And for a long time, there was no outreach, and we were just like, what are we doing this for? It's so much work, hours a week. It's like, why are we doing this? And then all of a sudden you get an email. It's like, hey, we listened to episode, 62, and it changed my whole life. Like, I can't believe I didn't realize, like, other people deal with that same struggle. Thank you so much. You have no idea how much this means to me. And that's when we were like, all right, we're on to something. So that was really what fueled the podcast. The videos, I was terrible on camera when we started. I am way more natural now, where I have a lot of fun doing it. But it was a way for us to promote good craft and what we were doing. And again, it was to showcase who we are, what we're about, what we're going to do, and get people interested in it from a technical level, but also give the opportunity for like clients to see how we put a home together and why we value things, and talk about the details that oftentimes go unnoticed. And again, it's also about educating our peers, where it's like, yeah, listen, I've told a lot of secrets on our videos. I've had people reach out very mad at me because I've shared some of these secrets. To which I reply, this old house has been doing this for 40 years.
True.
They've been showing every secret for 40 years. I'm not a pioneer in that.
Yeah. All
I'm doing is putting it in a different format.
Yep.
I'm putting it on a YouTube channel, on an Instagram channel. And, there's so many benefits to it on my end too, where, when we post a video, that video is filmed, within like 7, maybe 14 days max. So if I did something wrong in that video, damn well that someone's going to tell me.
Absolutely.
That. Hey, you screwed that up. You're an idiot. Like, this guy shouldn't be a builder, blah, 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 whatever.
Sure.
And I'm going to read that, and, most of it's BS. But there's been times where it's like, hey, I used that product with that. It failed. Be careful of this. Be careful of that. And it has saved us.
Yeah.
We've actually went back to a job and been like, hey, we screwed up. And we told the client, like, hey, just so you know, this is the situation. We were unaware of the failure of this, so we're going to redo this. And that's been great, where it's like, now my team gets this like real world feedback. Thousands of people are watching what we're doing. There's critics everywhere. Most of them are, like I said, BS, but there's a few, nuggets in there that allow us to improve. So it's expediting our learning process, because so many people are watching it. But it's simultaneously teaching people the process in which we take, and as well as promoting us to potential clients and or architects.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I think, it's funny. I asked the question and you kind of answered, and we've seen this on our marketing side. We've been blogging for 10 plus years, and our blog has a very large national outreach, just because it builds, to your point, it took a long time, but it builds upon itself. And probably about 5 or 6 years ago, because we're such a big servicer, we will post the service ratings by brand. Now, the manufacturers hate it. We'll go right down to the SKU level. If you're looking for a front load washer, this is what breaks, and this is the percent of break. And a lot of that, what we just found was that transparency of, hey, these things do go wrong, educate the consumer. While the manufacturer didn't like it, it really brought a lot of good feedback, because they call us immediately. We upload it because we have, again, so much real-time data with our service team that we were able to fix things, that were, there was one manufacturer, they were named nameless, but they are probably the largest manufacturer in built-in refrigerators that you use all the time. And we logged a very high service claim, up around the 40% in the first 30 days of ownership. And it rocked everybody. And our phone lit up from the factory like crazy. And we said, you know what? The good news is this, we've been saying for years, but it's true. We got to roll a truck because someone threw out the mounting bracket, which looks like a 2x4, to the refrigerator to mount it and secure it to the wall. Well, the guy comes at night, cleans up the job site, throws a darn piece of wood away. It looks like every other 2x4. That's how you secure it to the wall. And those conversations have them say, okay, we got to identify it better, put a big sticker on it, secure it to the actual unit. But it is kind of intoxicating when you can kind of feel like, hey, wow, and it kind of keeps you on edge. So it's really good to hear, and I love. You're so spot on, and it's no shock why you've grown. I guess I'd ask you this kind of one last question, if I could. When you think forward, and you've gone from a couple of people just 10 years ago to 15 people and growing, and all these podcasts, and just really kind of blowing up on things in a good way, where do you feel like this goes for you moving forward? Where does NS Builders want to go? Like, where do you see the industry going? Or you? Where do you aspire to be? What do you think this looks like as the world moves so fast for an NS Builder?
So where I think this will go is I think that we will continue to evolve with technology and innovation, and work to improve our efficiencies when it comes to actual construction. Things like off-site construction, manufacturing in factories, wall panels, things like that. We will continue to evolve our relationships with distinctive and iconic architecture. And I think that in the next 5 years, we will be building outside of Massachusetts, and eventually all around the country, if not the world. And I aspire to only build iconic pieces of architecture, things that people see and want to know where that is, and I want to drive by it, and and I'm inspired, and that inspire people. I think that we will all, for a very long time, if not always, have a home here in Boston. And because there's some amazing clientele and amazing people here that want very wonderful architecture. But I think that to be an iconic brand in that way, we need to look bigger.
Well, listen, I don't know, Fran, if you have anything to follow up, but I'll say, Nick, this has been awesome talking to you. I mean, you really do things differently, and it really is no shock. I mean, you're the first builder we've asked to come on because it's just easy to ask you because you do so many things differently, and it's your success.
And I have so much free time.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
4 kids, running.
Yeah, 4 kids. Do we have any of the kids on job site yet? We got them working yet? I mean,
they're all young.
Ah, man.
They're 8 weeks, 2, 4, and 6.
Wow. I haven't met your wife, but I can't. She's got to be.
She's the same.
Okay, you said it. It was right there at the top of the tongue. Well,
yeah, no, and look, like all the information, like you said, like we talk about our blogs and the podcast. Like the best thing about it is like this stuff's not self-serving. It's just serving the public and trying to put whatever honest information you find out there. And really the last question I have for you is, what inspired you to have the custom furniture sister company there? Were you looking for something really unique that you couldn't find for a home someday? And what inspired that?
So when it was a smaller, when NS Builders was a smaller company, I was before kids. I was in my shop at night building custom furniture, but like cabinetry and pieces of millwork for the jobs I was building and renovating. And Ken, who is my partner at Materia, came to work for us years ago at this point and wanted to really help build out the cabinet side of the company. And for years, we thought it would always be part of NS Builders. And, in sitting down with Ken, he wanted to own a company. And I saw a tremendous amount of value in what he brought to NS Builders when it came to cabinet making. So we decided to branch that off into its own millwork and cabinetry company. And the furniture aspect of it is more just the love for a product and the love of creativity. And I think it's kind of an opportunity for us to express creativity through something like furniture. And truthfully, there's there's that side of the aspirations of building an iconic furniture and millwork brand. It is designed to be luxury. It's designed to be hand built. It's, there's four guys, 2 guys in the shop, 2 guys installing. That's who makes every piece that goes into these cabinets. And, every single piece that we build, we challenge the way it's built, and we challenge the way it's designed. And we constantly ask clients if we can push it just a little further and do something cool. So what drove me to do that, I think it was just, it was the combination of, wanting the creative control of the interior finish of a home, but also the ability to partner with someone like Ken and build it into its own company and brand.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really cool and unique. Yeah, great.
All right. Well, you've given us a lot of time, and you got the kids. I mean, geez, go help out over there. Do something, Nick, other than talk to us appliance guys. But really, we appreciate your time. It was really cool. And till next time, Fran. Nick, why don't you just say this? Where can they find your videos? I mean, I talked about it quick. You've touched on it. Where can they find some of your stuff?
If you go to Google, type in NS Builders, it'll come up. YouTube, Instagram. We are on TikTok, Facebook. Modern Craftsman is our podcast. But either look up Nick Schiffer or NS Builders on Google, and it'll populate everything you need to know.
Awesome. You can't find us quite so easy. We're not there yet. We do a little more digging. Don't search under us. Appliance guys maybe. But anyway, no, really, Nick, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and congrats on the new addition and the rest of the family. And we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, and thank you everybody for joining us on Appliance Advisors. We'll see you next time.